What's going on, everyone? I'm Zero Elite, and I'm back again with a new video, episode 71 of the Disco Era u.s.s Enterprise tutorial. I just want to thank you very much for tuning into today's video, and if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And today we've got about a 21-minute video. We're going to be focusing on our torpedo room. I'm pretty excited to show this off, and if you've clicked on this picture, the thumbnail on the uh, attached to this video is what the finished torpedo room will look like. And if you need a location for where we are up in the saucer section at the very front of our ship in the saucer. So dead center right in the front, because this is where the actual torpedoes shot out of on the TOS series, rather than down the neck on the Constitution refit. Excuse me. So we're going to jump right into it. Sorry there, I had a frog in my throat. But yeah, we're going to jump right in. And you can see I'm just going to start working my flooring back here. And I'm not going to count this out exactly, but I'm not doing it super fast. So just be sure to count this out with me. It's getting just a little dark in just a moment. I'll be sure to add in some extra lighting. And then we'll start to add in to get an idea of what we're going to do. And I'm not working off of any exact reference picture. I kind of looked online a little bit. I didn't really see anything that I was able to use as a source picture other than using something from the Constitution refit, which it really isn't something that I wanted to do. So I just decided to wing it in this case. And I don't think what I end up with came out really bad. I think it fits in line with the ship. It looks pretty good. And, I'm just trying to make lemonade out of lemons at this point, since we don't really have a reference to go off of for this particular room. But that's okay. Have a gust of what I want to do, and essentially I'm just going to make some type of tubing to convey like where the torpedoes are loading into, and maybe like we're gonna make like some panels on the wall that would be like housing for additional torpedoes, and adding in some detail. And you'll see what I mean as we really get into the meat of this episode. But I'm pretty excited to start showing off some of these rooms, because this is one of my more recent builds. I did this just last week, actually. You got to think up to episode probably 55 or 60. Um, yeah, it was probably about episode 60 or so, maybe. That was all pre-recorded stuff that I had done on my first recording session. And when we caught up with that, I had to go in and record a bunch of new stuff. So I feel like I did this just a little bit better than the first set of videos. So hopefully the quality and the way that I do this comes out a little bit better. And what I mean by that is I try to bang this stuff out within one video if possible, because that was something that I noticed early on when I was doing the disco tutorial, that some parts here and there were a little bit scatterbrained. Some parts of it I really couldn't help, like when we were doing like the wireframe, but there were just a couple of things here and there, pretty much on the interior, that I should have focused on one section at a time. But at the same time, I was getting excited and wanted to show everybody that this thing was coming along, and I just try to push through it as fast as I possibly can, but at the same time making sure that it's a top quality build as much as I can help anyway. So you can see I've got my 3 dividers here that we also had on the outside, well, 3 blocks separated to convey that this is where our actual torpedoes are going to be loaded from. Um, and again, I'm not going off of any picture. I'm just building something from my head that I can think of that looks kind of cool. I think back to like the J.J. Abrams movie a little bit, like when they were loading up the phaser banks to fire, like um, had like these pieces that looked like you can come up to like man them a little bit. So I wanted to make something that wasn't so like built into the ship so much. And like this, even as itself, like it's really like it's built into the ship, but it's got all the parts that come out of it, which is what I'm trying to say. And I think it looks kind of cool. And I think by the time I'm done with this, it's not going to be perfect, but I think when you're showing this build off to people and they see it, you explain it to them like, "Oh, this is torpedo room," they'll get it. because we're gonna do some detailing in the floor and then the walls just to bring it all together. Just not going to be this one component by itself. We're gonna get rid of that gray block down there. So this way we have the three pillars high and the yellow. This is essentially going to be what the is supposed to be the stand-in for the tube that the torpedoes feed in from. And I was going to have them going at an angle down, but I decided against that simply because of the amount of room that I had to work with. And I just said, you know what, you can have it just going vertically. Why not? And it just worked out really well. So now I'm adding in my walls. And again, I'm not calling out the specific parameters. You should be able to build this out no problem because I did this pretty slow. But for whatever reason, as I'm going through this, if I'm not being detailed enough, or if you get stuck, or if you have a question, be sure to drop a comment below in the comment section. Usually pretty responsive in the comments. If I don't directly answer your question in the comments, chances are I'm getting ready to answer it in a video. But I don't think anybody will have any problems with this room. I think it's pretty straightforward. Um, right now I'm just trying to kind of get a gauge for the amount of room I'm going to have to play with, because this is going to be another case where this room just doesn't need to be super big. um, I mean, you could make it bigger, to try to help sell the scale of the ship a little bit, but even on the TOS Enterprise, interior wise, there wasn't a lot of really big rooms. Stuff like that really didn't start coming until the motion picture came out. So I'm really going off of a lot of screenshots that I've seen from the TOS Enterprise. I actually had somebody that did ask me the other day if I had made that Enterprise, and I was like, technically yes, technically no, because I mean, this is Pike's Enterprise, but it's from the soft reboot Star Trek Discovery. But even then, there was only so much of that ship that they showed. So much of the interior on this, I really did reference off of the TOS Enterprise. But then even if you go down that avenue, there's only going to be so many pictures that you can find interior wise of the TOS Enterprise. So you're going to have no choice but now to go back and hit the Constitution class. You'll hit the same problem there. And pretty much where I'm getting at is that I had to dance between every single version of the Constitution class, looking at the different interior shots to try to piece together a full interior as much as I possibly could. Because my goal here is, as far as the interior is, I want to make the most complete looking interior that I can possibly make for the Enterprise. I think I did a pretty good job with the Enterprise A, but again, this is a different type of enterprise, so there's just some of the things that I'm doing on here is just a completely different building process. Is like, for example, on the Enterprise A, that's considered like Kelvin timeline, so it's going to be like, especially down like engineering, it's going to be very mechanically inclined, and in some ways, it's going to, the ship's advanced, but in other ways, like it's very old, like in the sense that you can see all the machinery like sticking out, like all the barrels and everything. So it has like a real industrial feel to it. And that's not something that you'd see in like the classic TOS Enterprise or even the Constitution refit. Um, they did a little bit of that though on Star Trek Discovery, with Pike's Enterprise. Like when we were doing the engineering section, I showed you some screenshots of how they had it, and like they made it too big, and they just had a bunch of CGI crap stuck all over the place without really um, any clear direction of what was up and what was down, as far as what I could see anyway. So I mean, I think that there's like almost like an innocent quality to like how they built these ships back then, having a lot of the technology built into the walls. It's a cop out, but at the same time, like it has like a real elegant look to it, and I really dig that. But still, there's going to be some cases like right now where we're building out this huge housing thing that's supposed to be, or torpedo launcher. There's just going to be some cases like that for this ship where it just demands it. And I think this is coming out really good, what we got going on here. You can see I've started to plot out the yellow stripping on the floor where it's going to look like we're going to have the torpedoes feeding from the walls here on the sides. It's going to look really cool when I'm done with it. I think the back wall here, going on the side of our corridor. We're going to make this going straight across. Because we had that room there, we can go along the curve if we really wanted to, but I think that this room will look better with it being a little bit more boxy, is what I'm getting at. We're not going to do that for all the rooms. I think there's going to be maybe one or two rooms on the saucer section where maybe we try to use this corridor on the other side to our advantage and kind of maybe detail the room with that in mind. But I don't know, just as I was going through on this room in particular, I just kind of decided, I need to do that here. And that's just kind of how I did this whole interior. Every single room, room to room, just kind of like dictated its own thing, but also taking into consideration just a couple of design cues here and there. But you again, you can take a lot of liberties with this ship because I'm sure at some point again I'll get somebody that tells me in the comment section that this room isn't right or something's not there or something might be missing. But at the end of the day, you're not going to find 100% accurate Enterprise interior because they don't exist. So at the end of the day, this is a fictional ship that they never they've got blueprints for them that are mapped out, but they're too few and far between. And even the ones that are, it's literally just an engineering rendering. So it's only showing you a blueprint. It's not showing you those rooms fleshed out. It's literally just an above or side blueprint of it. I'm kind of deciding here that my walls are maybe just a little bit too long. So we're going to shorten them up just a little bit. You can see I'm doing that based off of the cut on the corridor right here. See how far back you need to go. I was actually originally, as soon as I put this wall up, I was going to build something to like maybe where we can go in here to like further emphasize that this whole area here is like the housing area for our torpedoes. But um, at the end of the day, I just like make closing the wall and I make some detailing, and I just call it a day, at least on the sides, because it's just something that you're not really going to go into for one, and for two. Um, it would have been difficult to make actual torpedoes. I could have done something maybe with the mine carts, which I've done that on my 2009 Enterprise, and I don't know. I did not like how it came out. It looked janky is basically the word that I'm looking for. I wasn't really crazy about it, so I just decided just to avoid that for this version. And again, I don't want to build each ship that I've done the same way twice on the interior unless it's something that calls for it and it makes sense. I try to, grow and do different things as I do each build, and especially when you're have done a couple of different Constitution class ships, it can get a little redundant after a while. So it's important to mix it up just a little bit. So that's kind of why I just embrace the different eras and try to focus on, specifically how the interior was for that era when I'm working on a specific ship. So that's a lot of the reasons why I keep referencing the TOS Enterprise here, just because there's a lot more care they should have taken. Like if you look at, for example, like what J.J. Abrams did with Star Wars, I wish they would have did that with Star Trek. Come at it with the same class and respect. Respect the history, respect the canon, what's come before, and figure out a way to update it at the same time. I'm not saying I have necessarily a problem with some of the things that they updated. I mean, I think for me, mostly the gripes I have at this point is some of the stuff they did for season 1 of 2 of Discovery. But one of the things they could do, and I really do think that it would help, is that they need to bring back some of these master model makers and stop doing the ships in full on CGI. Because I mean, I myself I had a problem with just doing the exterior of this ship, because if you go picture to picture, because it's a CGI rendering, there's um, the pictures vary depending on which artist did it. So it's hard to find a definitive version of the Enterprise, or at least the Disco Enterprise one. I got lucky after doing research, and I was able to figure out that the Eagle Moss one, that they used the files from the TV show. So I knew that one was probably going to be the closest one that I could possibly do. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go with this one and just call it a day. If there's something that looks a little bit different that I see, whenever Strange New Worlds comes out, again, I'll probably make a change to it if I feel that change is necessary. But again, I think what we got going on here, I think this is really going to work. You can see I have like this cutaway pattern going every other one. I'm trying to figure out what color I'm going to do for the background. Could do red, um, could do yellow. Um, I know I don't want to do white because I don't want that cut just to fade away, or at least blend in with background when we add it. I really want it to stick out just a little bit. But then another problem too is that when we close this off, it's going to look very dark anyway. But I think it'll look better with the color at least than if we add just the concrete. Then you can see I'm just doing the red behind each of the cuts on both sides. Now we're going to close in this wall. And we're rocking. We're already down to the last 6 minutes. You can see for this back wall, I didn't make it completely flat yet. I was going to, and I still might. I don't know. I'm kind of liking it like that, but at the same time, I kind of feel like this room needs to be flat on both sides. So we might mess with that in the next couple of minutes here. We might leave it the same. I don't know. And this was one of these cases where I came into this room. I did not have. Um, I had a loose idea of what I wanted to do. Basically, I knew that I was going to do like these three pillars, three yellow pillars, and I might have something like a line going in the ground to emphasize that the torpedoes are coming from there. But I didn't have the rest of this room mapped out. And you can just see in the process that I've done it, I've just little by little added little details here and there and changed one little thing here and there, like we're doing with the hatches right now, or the trapdoors, I should say. Because now what we can do is the ones that have these holes in between them, we can actually swap out the yellow that's directly underneath them and replace that with a different color just to give a little bit more detail for this area right here. So I'm going to change that one to the dark gray. I'm going to make this one red and see what they look like. I think that the red one actually looks pretty good. I mean, we'll do like 3 struts going straight back along the top because, again, this is a torpedo launcher, so I want to build something here that looks like it's like really integrated into the ship. That this thing, when it fires, it's not going anywhere. It's not messing up the structure of the ship because this thing is part of the structure. Or at least that's the idea of adding these pillars and kind of like this reinforcement going along the wall on the left. We're getting our lighting on the floor. We'll get rid of these lanterns up top. So I'm just going along with the cut. When adding that one, I got to get rid of that one on the corner. I'm kind of looking to see here if I want to do the red on the top like we have in the bottom. That might look a little bit better. Because, there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. Because even what I'm doing now, this isn't set in stone. There's a million different ways that you can do this room. And, hopefully when you're seeing this, this gives you an idea and some inspiration on some stuff that you can do with your own torpedo room. But at the same time, um, you're not restricted to doing the same thing that I'm doing right here. I might actually swap this out with a sea lantern. That might actually be the best bet right here for the torpedo launcher because now it looks like energy is coming out. It looks a little bit more alive. I think that's the way to go on there. That looks great. Yeah, this is just an example of how adding things on little at a time here, little at a time there. Um, you can come in with a vague idea and really make it all come together. But you don't want to build something room wise unless you have a starting point. Because if you go without a starting point, then chances are you're just going to start building a lot of random crap and you're just going to frustrate yourself. So we're going to hop into the last part of today's episode. I'm going to be making, I think, one or two more changes. I believe we're going to be bringing this wall back just a little bit more for the front. And we can really get away with that in this room here because this specific room is not going to have any windows because it makes sense. You're not uh, this is going to be one of those areas where, it makes sense that you would want this to be a defended area. You're not going to have a bunch of windows sticking out the sides to um, bring down your defenses if the shields drop for whatever reason. So that's why I'm making the decision for at least this room here. We're not doing any windows, even though it's going right along the wall of the saucer. But I am going to be adding more windows as we start filling in more of our rooms. But I am waiting until I fill in those rooms to do it, just to make sure that I'm not making a little bit too much more work for myself. We got one more line to do here, and I think that's going to call it a day on this one. But I think all things considered, this torpedo room has really just exceeded my expectations as far as how good it was going to come out. I was not expecting to, when I started this recording, I was not expecting to land here. I really wasn't. I had my starting off point with these three pillars, and it just started adding stuff little by little, and the room really came together. And I'm just very happy with how this thing turned out. I'm even more excited on some of the stuff that I have coming up for everybody because there's still more stuff to show before this build is done. I still even have some empty rooms I have to fill in, um, but I've completed general crew quarters. Um, I've also began construction on let's see, the actual impulse engines rooms on the inside of the ship, as well as admiral's quarters, and then also the conference room. If I also have to do captain's quarters and general crew quarters, and then also crew mess hall. That's something I need to do also. But other than that, if there's any other rooms that you think that I'm missing, make sure to sound off in the comments section below. And or if there's anything else that you would like to see me add to this build while I'm still working on it, make sure to drop a comment. Or if there's any other builds that you'd like to see me do, make sure to drop a comment below also. It doesn't necessarily have to be Star Trek. It can really be anything that's nerd related. And I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. And I just want to thank everybody for tuning into today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed doing this whole tutorial series. It's really been a blast for me. And I just want to thank everybody for subscribing and the support and the comments. It really does mean a lot to me. And if you did enjoy today's video, don't forget to tune in next Tuesday for episode 72. In fact, you can always catch new Minecraft episodes Tuesdays through Fridays. You can also catch my new Starship Evo builds on Mondays. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. I hope everybody has a happy and safe weekend, and I will catch you next week on the new video.